Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in my tiny house on wheels and living a more intentional life. And on Wednesdays, usually it's a recipe video. One of the recipes my mom made all the time, and as a little girl I always helped her with, is rice pudding. She made it in this great big pot, and I would stand on a chair in front of the stove while it simmered, and it was my job to stir it. And there was this great big wooden spoon that took me 2 hands to stir. That's the memory that I have. And I loved it, and it is still very much a comfort food for me. And so today what I thought I'd show you is how to make it in your Instant Pot, because I promised, you've asked, and I promised that I would show you more recipes, easy, useful recipes that you can make in your Instant Pot, and this is one of them. Super easy, minimal ingredients. Literally, you pour everything in there and you turn it on and it's done. So none of this simmering on the stove, worrying about it possibly burning to the bottom of your pot. None of that. If that is something that you want to make, stay tuned and let's get making it. Here are the ingredients you're going to need for this Instant Pot rice pudding. You want arborio rice. This is the same kind of rice that you would use if you were making a risotto, and it's a short grain rice. It is plump, really starchy, and gives a really nice sort of a creamy custard consistency to your rice pudding. So that's really important. And then some non-dairy milk. I have vanilla oat milk open, so I would use either the vanilla or the plain, but definitely unsweetened. 1 can of coconut milk, full fat coconut milk, some white sugar, a little bit of salt, some vanilla, and then 1 stick of cinnamon. This was a very long stick, so I broke it in half, but I'm going to put the whole thing in since I'm making a fair size amount. Then you need your Instant Pot or any pressure cooker and some measuring utensils, and that is all that we need. So to the pot, to the pot of your pressure cooker, your electric pressure cooker, we're going to add the following ingredients. We're going to grab a whisk, because the coconut milk, if it's full fat especially, will be solid on top, because it is, that's just what happens with the fat in the coconut milk, and then it's liquid underneath, so you're going to want to whisk that up. So the first thing we're going to do is put that in there. Just be careful, because that's how it comes out. It kind of just comes out pretty fast. So I'm just going to break up the chunks of the coconut milk solids a bit. Sorry, I know that that's annoying when I bang those things, and then just give it a good little whisk to break it up. It will melt and obviously become more liquid when we're cooking it, when it's cooking, but to help that process along. All right, and now we're going to add, so that was 1 can, I think 14 ounces, 400 milliliters, just your standard average size can, of the coconut milk. And now we're going to add 2.5 cups of your non-dairy milk of choice. Oat milk is really great when you're making this sort of recipe, because it's naturally a little sweet and it's creamy, but you could use soy milk, almond milk, whatever milk, that non-dairy milk that you prefer to use. So 2.5 cups of that. Normally I wouldn't use the vanilla flavored one, even though it's unsweetened, but it's what I have open, so there's no point in opening a different one. All right. So that's 2.5 cups of the oat milk. And now we're going to whisk that together. And now we want 1 cup of the arborio rice. You can make rice pudding with long grain rice, just regular rice. Sourcing out arborio really does make a difference, because it, again, is very starchy, and so it creates a really nice creamy custard with the rice pudding when you're making the rice pudding, which is pretty awesome. So you can find, I found this At my regular grocery store, it wasn't expensive. It was like just over $2. But you can also find this in the Bulk Barn here in Canada, and probably any other bulk store that you're at. Again, it's the kind of rice that you would use to make your risotto. So 1 cup, and we're going to rinse this. So I'm just going to pour the cup into my strainer here. And then give it a good rinse. So that's 1 cup of the rice. And now I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. You always want a little bit of salt when you're making a sweet dish because it actually brings out the sweetness, but not a lot, just 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, also really good with maple extract. And 1/4 cup of sugar, just white sugar or whatever sugar you use. A lot of recipes that I've seen use a condensed milk at the end of the cooking process. My mom never did that. That's not how it was traditional at my house. She always put the sugar in now. And now we're going to give it another good stir to make sure everything is mixed together and that sugar dissolves just a little bit. And then the cinnamon stick. This is, like I say, a long cinnamon stick. It was actually surprisingly difficult to find cinnamon sticks in the city for some reason. I ended up finding them. I was at 3 different grocery stores, could not find cinnamon sticks or oat milk, ironically. But then I ended up at the Bulk Barn and they had it, which is where I should have gone first. Because you guys know, if you've watched any of my cooking videos, how much I love the Bulk Barn. All right, so we have the Instant Pot ready to go. I'm going to put the bowl in there. You want your lid to sealing. And then, how does this go? So sealing, you want to go to manual. It's on high pressure, and I want to take that down to 3 minutes, and then it will automatically start. It'll take a while for it to come up to pressure, and then it will actively pressure cook for 3 minutes. And then we're going to leave it for 10 minutes to just sit before we do the quick release. So between that 3 minutes of cooking and that 10 minutes of sitting is when it will do its magic. So that's it, guys. That's all the work you need to do. Now you just let it do its thing. So I'll see you back here when it's done. So it cooked for 3 minutes, and then I let it sit for 10 minutes. And you can see that the countdown has got to 10 where it just sits staying warm. So now I'm going to turn it off, and we're going to do the quick release. You want to be very careful with the quick release, as always, but in particular when you've got something that's fairly creamy and frothy like rice and things like that, because if you release too quickly and it's still simmering in there, it can bubble up through the little vent here. So you want to go slow, and I would recommend having a little washcloth handy. Now, do not cover the vent when you're doing the quick release, because that steam needs to get out. So don't cover it, but just go nice and slow, and don't put your fingers on it because that can be very, very painful. So I'm just going to go slowly, and you want to let it release until the pin goes down. You probably can't see it. So I'm just going to do it nice and slow. I'm not going to just flip it over to the quick release because I don't want any foam or anything to come up through there. And eventually, when enough steam has released, pressure has released, the pin will go down, which means that you now can open it up. So this will thicken. It's still fairly runny, but it will thicken quite a bit as it cools. That's our rice pudding. And like I say, it looks runny now, but it's thickening already just as I stir it, and it will continue to thicken just as it cools a little bit. Okay, so I have scooped half of it into this container. This is going to be for me. The rest is going home with Keaton. And what I like to do is add a little cinnamon on top. So let's try this. I'm going to add a little bit of extra cinnamon. And so you can see that it has thickened up quite a bit. If you like your rice pudding thicker, then just put 2 cups of the milk in there. But it does thicken up as it cools. This is still warm, so it will get thicker as it cools. Delicious. So guys, give this a try. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you try it. And let me know what you put in your rice pudding. I know that some people put raisins in the rice pudding. Sorry. Blah. I hate raisins. So I never put them in my rice pudding, but if you do, feel free to put that in. Some people put shredded coconut in the rice pudding. And some people don't put vanilla in the rice pudding. And some people put powdered cinnamon in the recipe versus cinnamon sticks. So whatever you like in your rice pudding, go ahead and do that. And make it your own. But I just wanted to show you how easy it was to make rice pudding in an Instant Pot. Super fast, super easy. So I'm going to eat this, and I will talk to you next week.